Talita, it's a pleasure to have you as my guest. Welcome to the J Curve.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being with me today, and I would love to start with a little bit on you. So tell me, how did you make your way into the world of tech entrepreneurship in Latin America, and what was the foundational story behind your decision to join Petlove as a CEO?
So, I come from a very humble background. My mom started her life as a maid and my father as a carpenter. And the first big thing in my life was to attend college, which is an experience that completely changed my life. So, I studied business management in Brazil in a very good school. Then I started my career in investment banking and then moved into management consulting, where I worked at BCG. And then I was a little bit tired of, not getting my hands dirty with the recommendations I was giving my clients. And then I wanted to live the real life and move to a company. But at the same time, I had this life project of living in China. I was studying Mandarin every single day. And when I finally got the chance to be transferred through BCG to BCG Shanghai, I got an offer to join a Brazilian food company, BRF, to launch their main brand, Sadia, in China. And I loved the challenge and the opportunity. And, I jumped at it. Then I moved to Shanghai, lived in China for a couple of years. I was responsible for our launch in that country, which was an amazing experience. And then I learned how much I loved, to be operating and, creating something new. I had a few issues, had to come back to Brazil, some family health issues. And then my husband and I decided to attend a master program. So we did our MBA at Chicago Booth. And then after Booth, it was his turn to start something new. So my husband started a fintech and we moved back to Brazil. That's when I joined a Brazilian PE firm called Tarpon, where at the time we had the challenge of starting a new growth fund. And it was a very interesting opportunity. I really liked the partners there. That's when I started to study the pet sector in Brazil when I was at Tarpon. And at the same time, we founded this growth fund called Camerupin, which became an investor in Petlove, which is the company I'm at today. And at the beginning, I was a board member at Petlove, but, I couldn't contain myself. I started working there almost every day, supporting the founder, Marcio, and everything he needed from fundraising, financial planning, strategic planning, and anything he needed, really. Like I was even the first HR person, formal HR person of the company. And then at some point, I think back in 2020, Marcio and our other partners decided it was time to start a transition. And then there was this process. I was accepted in the process at the beginning. I even didn't want to participate, but things happened so fast. And then since 2021, I'm CEO of the company. And here I am living this amazing adventure.
So first of all, a spectacular story. I have a full-on question. China.
Yeah,
What attracted you to China? Mandarin is such a complex language.
it is.
Culture is so different from Brazilian. What's your connection or aspiration of China related to?
I love to learn new things and I love challenges. I love to have problems to solve. This is what moves me. And I mean, I didn't not have money to study a lot of languages, but I always tried to study by myself. And just the challenge of learning Mandarin interested me. And what happened is before I joined BCG, I had gathered some money and I did a backpacking trip around the world where I spent a lot of time in Africa and Asia. And then when I went to China for the first time, I fell in love with all that crazy difference in culture. And I was like, I'm going to live here a day, but I don't understand anything they say. I couldn't buy anything from me, for example, at McDonald's or something. Like, I'm going to learn this language. So when I came back to Brazil, working at BCG, I used to do Mandarin classes like 3-4 times a week with a Chinese professor. And I used to go there during vacations to learn too. And that's how it started. And yeah, it was really fun to live there afterwards.
And in terms of experience of living and working in China for that Brazilian company, what were key insights, key aha moments, maybe key learnings that you've transferred to your future career and your current career as a CEO of Petlove?
First thing I learned the hard way, because I used to be worked in banking, then in consulting. So I was like the spreadsheet person, planning person. I learned that, doesn't matter what the worksheet is saying. It matters what we do with the inputs. And so execution is so important. And sometimes it's not worth to spend so much time planning for all the details because you cannot control the input. So you need to be aligned on what are the big things you want to reach and be really flexible to adapt so you can move with execution. It was a very humbling experience because I've always been a good student, had good performance. But when you are in a completely different company, even though I was learning Mandarin, I spoke like a teenager in some contexts or like a kid in others. So it was really humbling to, to put yourself in that vulnerable position and learn from people. So I needed really good people in my team. This whole thing on growing through others, that was a breakthrough moment for me as well. Because until that point in my career, all that matters is how much I delivered or how much I contributed to a specific team or objective. And there, I was completely dependent on the team. And this is like key, like in my career now and everything I do. So you have to learn how to grow and empower others to reach an objective.
You seem like a person who is willing to take risk. Put
Yeah.
yourself in an uncomfortable environment and just learning how to survive in that environment. But when you had this opportunity, when you needed to make this decision of becoming the CEO of Petlove, that by then was a 20-year established company, with established processes, established operations. And here you are with this multitude, like breadth of experiences across the globe coming in. Were you afraid at all? Were you
Oh, I was
doubting yourself?
terrified. I was totally doubting myself. So at the beginning, I didn't even want to apply because it was like, they're joking to invite me. Like, right, why me? I mean, okay, I did that thing, but it wasn't as complex, as big. No, I'm not prepared. I was lucky to have people around me who believed in me and said, hey, it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Starting from my husband, but also like my partner, Pedro, and some other people, they supported me so much. And I'm glad I took the risk. At the beginning, I was terrified, but, after a couple of months, I'm like, the company did not explode. Everything is great. Let's do this. So, but of course, I doubted myself.
It's really interesting because the company exploded, but in a good way, right?
Yeah.
Like when you joined and not joined because you were a board member, but when you became CEO and COVID hit and ecom saw this rapid growth and Petlove's business skyrocketed and you transitioned from being like an ecom company into being a company, like a whole ecosystem of solutions
Yeah.
across around pets, including health plans, including sitters, including software for veterinarians, and so on and so forth. So, how do you manage this rapidly growing organization around all these business units, and how do you think about the synergies in between them?
Perfect. So, yeah, so it's a complex organization, and we had inspirations in so many other successful business to find our own recipe for doing this. So I think there are two key things. One thing is autonomy. So we have the so-called single-threaded leaders leading the different challenges or the different pieces or projects that are important for our success. We don't focus too much on hard synergies at first. We try to build a foundation to leverage on like soft synergies and revenue synergies. So we have time to integrate the team, which is the most complex part of it. And we manage the company with OKRs, objectives, and key results. So we are very clear on what's our vision as a company and how does it translate into each business unit, each area. So how each small team contributes to that big objective. And we reveal them every quarter. So it's pretty dynamic. And I think it works very well for me to be able to continue running while we integrate business, try new things, and so on.
I'm finishing to read this book called Working Backwards.
I love it. I love it. I love this book. Yeah.
They talked a lot about like single-threaded leadership.
Exactly.
And I never thought about that because you normally try to, we want to be a holistic organization, we want to be integrated. But in the book, they build this pretty persuasive case about why single-threaded leadership and ownership within the vertical is mission critical for companies' ability to innovate and ability to deliver. And
exactly. They were a big inspiration. Amazon is a big inspiration for us in two things, on the single-threaded leader thing and also on being obsessed about the input metrics to manage our business, especially e-com, which is a business that, it's tough, thin margins. So you have to, get things right all the time and keep improving. They were huge inspirations. We went to their talks. We talked to the authors of the book to make sure how we adapted their management system to Petlove. So we're big fans of that. But we also have some areas of the company where we're doing something quite new and not necessarily that system applies perfectly. I mean, some of the foundational principles apply, but not all. But.
So can you talk a little bit about this customization? Maybe just talk a little bit the core principles of the system and also
Perfect.
the customization, the way you designed it, the way it works for Petlove.
Perfect. So basically we do a mixture of this with OKRs, which was pioneered by Google. Two things, right? So number one thing, we make sure that for every big ambition or project or business unit, we have a clear leader with dedicated resources. And when I say dedicated resources, it's like full-fledged, not only tech or design, but also business resources, sometimes people resources dedicated to make that team work. And we try to keep the team small. And if the team is not small, we usually break the whole problem into a smaller problem just so we can have a small squad obsessed about a single problem. So that's one side of it. The other side is this thing on managing like the input metrics that will be leading indicators of your future performance. And this is a thing that's so strong in the Amazon management system. So we have weekly business reviews, monthly business reviews, even our quarter business reviews. We look at our key objectives and key results, but also at several input metrics that will, affect our results. So, for example, if NPS for some reason is dropping and it's dropping in e-commerce, we look at, what's our service level? What's the rate of orders that are being shipped same day? We break into all the problems that might be causing that so we can have full visibility and act fast once something is not on track. And then we'll look at the trends of these indicators on a weekly perspective and monthly perspective to understand what are the trends. So, and then it's adapted because we are in love with OKRs. So then teams, they have freedom to understand how they will tackle a certain objective. So they don't compromise on like, I'll do something. No, I'll reach this goal and then I have the resources and the freedom to decide on how I'll handle this goal. So
how does this system design translate into the corporate culture? What are the key elements of the corporate culture and how do you ensure that it's scalable as the company grows?
Very difficult. It's a challenge because there's this beautiful seed of our culture that comes from our founder, which is an amazing person. He's a vet and he loves the animal cause. And the Petlove's mission is to make pet care affordable and simple. And being a pet lover is a value. So how much engaged you are with the cause, how much you have empathy for pet parents, for their issues, how much you can fall in love with the problem and not necessarily the solution. So we value this quite a lot. Another value that is really important is about partnership, because given we are a company that had and will continue to acquire other companies to complement our ecosystem, it's really important, this partnership value, because it's about thinking like an owner, but more than that, working as partners. If you're my partner, I'll collaborate with you. So the ecosystem results are more important than the area results, and the area results are more important than the individual results. So, for example, we gave stock to every single employee, from warehouses to the customer service to every single area, so they understand that like they are partners and, we are part of this big thing together, and that every one of them, if they have good performance, they can continue increasing their partnership in our company. So we have like hundreds and hundreds of people with stock that continue gaining stock over time and can, have also financial gain as the company grows and prospers. So it's another example of value that is super important. And I would say that the two other things that we have really strong in our company, of course, are execution drive. We are in a very competitive market. Things move so fast. So we need to execute. Like, we cannot do the same mistake I did in China, spend a lot of time planning, analysis, paralysis. So the execution drive is important. But on the other hand, also like being a learner in life is also another value that is relevant for us. So learning new things, learning new ways, challenging ourselves to always be better, to do things differently. And I'm proud to see how the team translates these things into the customer experience, because Petlove has been a pioneer over the past 20 years. So it was the first pet e-commerce, the first pet app, the first pet subscription. We launched the first pet insurance and so many other things, the first ecosystem. So the team is really passionate about how can we approach this differently. So
How do you balance this culture of partnership with the culture of meritocracy?
that's a very important question. When we talk about meritocracy or partnership, we value partnership more. So, for example, for bonus targets, we have the same targets for the whole company. And the way we try to apply meritocracy is usually with our equity grants. So people, if they add value, if they bring out a lot of results and have adherence to the culture, which is like non-negotiable, then they can increase their partnership. So we leverage partnership to promote meritocracy. But in terms of bonus, day-to-day, and so on, we value a lot of collaboration.
When you look at your scope of work as a CEO today, so you have this building the scalable culture, you have maintaining the culture, right? So
Yeah.
you have maintaining relationships with the founder, you have the maintaining relationships with the board. You also have a task of staying ahead of the curve and continuing being the pioneer in everything related to pet care. So, what is the most difficult aspect of your job as a leader today, given all the scope?
Yes, it's a very good question. I think managing my agenda, my time, making sure I make a good use of my time is the most challenging part, because it's so easy to get lost and have so much stuff going on. Understanding what are the topics that, where you should be involved and help the team. What are the topics that should be like completely delegated? So keeping the balance and keeping a smart allocation of my time and effort is the most challenging thing. Given we also have a lot of investors at our board, it's also, of course, challenging to, have everyone on the same page and so on. But I'm fortunate to have been working with this board for some time. And I mean, we have our governance, our rituals, which always help.
You mentioned investors. You have some of the most lucrative investors on your board. First of all, because they are deep pocketed. Second of all, because they value long-term sustainable partnerships. So when you look back at your experience of fundraising, what were your key learnings out of that experience that you can share and that could be an interesting tips for founders?
I think a few things. First of all, like find an investor that understands the vision and is excited about the vision. That's key, because the journey is long and there are so many things we can't control along the journey. So having investors who can understand the long-term vision and are focused on the long-term, long-term investment horizon, I think is something really important. And the second thing, understanding also what will this investor add to the table that your company needs at that point. This is something we were really careful in every round that we did. So now we'll prepare for an IPO in the future. We need this. Oh, we are developing our platform. We need someone with expertise in tech and so on. So we always looked at, what will this new investor bring to the table? Because in terms of pockets, or even our existing investors, they could have funded the company in all the last rounds that we have done. And in terms of tips, I think you have to be successful in selling the vision. Is there a time to be captured? What's the unique value proposition that your company offers? Of course, sell the team and the talent. So I think these are the key things.
And if you were to raise today, given where we are in the market, and the market is very turbulent for B plus, C plus companies, how would you change your strategy in terms of fundraising? Or maybe how would you change your narrative around the company?
I don't know if I would change the narrative. And to be honest, I would try to make sure I was not in a position to need to raise, because it's never good to fundraise when you need it. I think that's key. Like, what can you do with your company? How can you reduce burn or break even or start generating cash to not rush into this process, to bring in the right investor, to be able to negotiate good terms and valuation. Thank God we have a lot of cash. Our company is going well, so we don't need to raise. But the first thing I would try to understand, what are the options not to be in this position, because ideally we should have, a strong voice on the table. And to have a strong voice, the company needs to be in a strong position from a cash perspective. And in terms of the speech, I think one different aspect that I see nowadays, of course, is, okay, it's not only about the growth potential, the unique value proposition, but also how are the unit economics evolving, how profitable will be the business. And I think it's something that even earlier stages is increasingly more important, and investors are asking about a lot.
Yeah. And also consumer businesses in general are tough businesses to be.
Yeah.
Especially in emerging markets where you have like 10 crises every year. So I want to talk a little bit about building sustainable consumer-focused business and building the relationships with consumers to the point that sustainability goes on no matter the market environment. So what was and what is your approach towards building long-term, trustworthy relationships with customers in terms of nurturing communities, in terms of channel selection, and whatever else that you think is important for B2C businesses?
So our dream is to be the most loved brand. So, and to do that, we believe that the first thing is we need to deliver on the promise. So we are a company that is obsessed about NPS. It's a target for bonus. It's one of the OKRs that is translated into several input metrics that are affecting NPS. So first of all, we need to deliver on the promise. So things need to run smoothly. For example, e-commerce stock out needs to be low, service level needs to be high. We need to have the lowest prices that we monitor daily, and so many of the things that we believe are foundations of a good experience. So that's number one. And that's really hard. It's already a lot of work and a lot of people focus on that. Yeah.
Like number one on steroids.
And then the second thing is, okay, so we delivered on the promise. How can we go the extra mile? We do things like sending handwritten letters to new customers. We empower our customer service team, which we call the pet experience team, to really solve our customer problems, to have this autonomy, to, try to turn a problem into an opportunity for a delightful experience. And for example, in our stores, we have like 95 NPS. So we train the team to have the best possible service that any pet store might dream of. So we are really, really obsessed, and we have so many levers on improving the service quality. And this applies also to the accredited network of our health plan and so on. And then the third thing, of course, is then building this pet love community and the pet love brand. We are a company that is built by pet lovers, and we are so engaged with the NGO community and with so many causes to make pets healthier and happier. And we leverage these things to build the brand. So for example, we approved a law during the World Cup to not allow that firecrackers are exploded, because that's really terrifying for pets. That's really bad for pets. Some pets can even die of it. We are entering to public spaces. We created the largest pet play in Latin America, where our customers and pet parents overall can bring their pets just to have fun and be together there. And we try to do these different campaigns that tell a little bit about our soul as a brand. And it's a very innovative, very provocative brand that we are building, and we're really happy with the brand growth and so on. So
why is it important for a brand to be hybrid? Because you started as an e-com, right? Right now you have online and offline presence, and I still see a lot of founders who believe that they can build like billion-dollar businesses being purely e-com solution. Why do you think it's important to be hybrid?
Because our customers are hybrid. So about the pet market, we're talking about a huge market, over 60 billion reais, and the market is still quite fragmented. 70% of purchases, they happen in independent mom and pop places. So, and most of the shopping experience is still offline. Our vision was that, okay, so it's really cool. We're leading this small lake and the lake continues increasing. There was a tsunami that came to the lake, enlarged it a little bit. But now it's time for us to start fishing in the ocean and, and trying how can we improve the offline experience and be where our customer need us to be. So if they want to just program one of their purchases in Autoship and conveniently receive products without needing to worry about that they ran out of kibble, that's okay. We have a product for that, which by the way is our largest business, Autoship. Oh, if our customers, they are, price seeking every month, okay, we have the Discount Club, which is a new product we launched where they have like 30% off their purchases when they're members. But if they really want to go to a store, have their pet groom and just, shop in the neighborhood, we'll be there too. So that's why we are moving to offline with a new store concept, really focus on the neighborhood and the life of the neighborhood.
You have global ambitions at this point, or maybe in the next decade. And if so, like when you look at your business, how much of it is specific to Brazil and Brazilian mentality of a consumer? And how much of that is scalable on a global scale?
Nice. It's a really good question. I would say that dreaming of a global business, maybe it's a faraway dream, but of a Latam business, it's totally possible. The thing is, the Brazil market is so big and there's so much opportunity and growth still for us that going after it now would be a distraction. But of course, we count on it if we're talking about the next 10 years. Why not?
So if everything goes right
Yeah.
for Petlove, maybe not in the next decade, but in the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
How does the success look like, given your current plan?
Oh, that's great. We want to be the most loved brand of pets in Brazil. We want to be a sustainable company, which is something we are on an agenda where we are evolving quite fast. And we want to be one of the best places to work for. So those are the pillars of our dream. If we deliver that, we believe we'll have a company with like a unique value proposition, competitive advantages, profitable as a result of that. So
that seems like very aligned with what you were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Reflecting back on your Chinese experience, how important it is to be interdependent with the team.
Yeah.
And customer focused and meeting people where they want to meet. Now I'd love to move to my favorite part.
Oh my God, I'm afraid.
Which is the rapid fire section.
I'm scared.
I'll ask you 5 short questions. I'll appreciate your immediate response. Let's dive right in. The first question is, what's one book or piece of content every founder should read and why?
My favorite book, The Art of Possibility. I think it gives a fresh perspective on how we can approach life and work and everything. And I mean, we should give an A to everyone. Everyone has the potential, but if we don't give this person the chance, or if we don't treat this person as an A type of person, maybe they won't live up to their potential.
I never read it, but
I love it. It's wonderful. You should read it.
I'm gonna order it on Amazon. I'm all about business literature recently, but I would love to go into depth, maybe more like life related. So thanks for the recommendation. The second question, if a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or virtually anything else, what would you want to know?
Oh my God. I'm so afraid to know about the future. I don't know if I want to know. I don't know. Maybe I want to know if I'll be a grandmother. I have 2 small children, 2 daughters, and May, my pet. So,
how old?
Ellen is 5, Sophia is 3, and May is 2.
This is amazing. I have 3 children, but the bigger difference, age difference. Then I have to change one of the questions in the rapid fire section and ask you a different question. And the question would be, how did becoming a mother impact the way you operate as an executive?
It made me value my time much more, made me be much more efficient. Before, I would not say no. And I learned how important it is to say no. Because when you say no, you prioritize what's important. You value your time. It's the most precious thing we have. So I think without motherhood, I wouldn't have learned that.
This is also amazing that you are running literally the biggest e-com pet company in Brazil and create these incredible examples
Mm.
to your kids. This is amazing. What's the best piece of advice that you've recently received?
Hmm. So many good ones. There's nothing more permanent than a temporary decision. This is a good advice I have received.
And the last one would be from my collection. I have a rating, and it's my favorite question. If you were an alcoholic beverage, which beverage would you be and why? Not the one that you would drink, but the one that you would be. That's that reflects your personality.
I mean, I think I would be a wine just because it gets better with time. And I feel like, oh, it's so amazing to be able to learn and evolve and learn from experience. It's so much fun. If I could go back in time and tell the younger Talita, hey, just chill, you know? So that's why, but
Would you be like Argentinian Malbec, or you'll be I don't know, French Bordeaux or
I
Italian
think
Barolo?
Argentinian Malbec just because, I'm from Latam. So probably a Brazilian wine. We have some good ones.
Sparkling one.
Yeah.
Like burst of energy. Talita, thank you so much for being
Thank
with me
you for the
today. It was an
invitation.
incredible conversation. Thank you.
Loved meeting you. Thank you.